Many new Magic players can be totally devastated to find out how expensive some reserve list cards cost. But in today's video, I'm going to share with you some cheap alternative cards to those high-priced reserve list cards that may be able to give you a lot of enjoyment and save you a lot of money. Let's face it, bills don't go away. Cardboard is a secondary concern, and you want the best you can afford, but at the same time, you don't want to break your wallet. Welcome back, everyone. MTG Moxman here. Thank you again for hanging out with me on my channel today. Now, when we're talking about Magic cards on the reserve list, not every card is expensive, of course, but there are many cards that end up costing, in the thousands of dollars. And if you don't want to spend that money, well, you've got to find some way to get the game effect you're looking for. And there's a lot of Magic cards out there that do sort of imitate some of these cards, but at a fraction of the cost. So we're going to be taking a look at some of those cards, and I really hope you guys take a moment to enjoy this video for what it is, which is offering you cheap alternatives to high-priced reserve list cards. Now, I understand as well that some players out there, they got to have the real thing. They want the Abyss. They don't want to worry about the alternative. They want to have a Tabernacle, a Pendril Veil. They don't want to go to the alternative. That's understood. We get that. There are always going to be players like that. But if you're a player out there who maybe has the real card and wants the substitute card, or you can't afford the real card and are looking for some form of substitute to get this job done, well, maybe this video is going to be good for you. So let's go ahead and take a look at this first card because we have quite a few to go over today. The first card I'm sharing with you today is Moat from Legends. Now, this card is one of the original buyout cards back in the day, and this thing went from like a $100 card all the way up to like $3,000, and it's steadily been declining over the last few years, but it still commands a hefty price tag, $824.50 for a near mint copy. Now, the Moat just says that all non-flying creatures can't attack you, but it's still a great card to have around. There's big beasties out there you like to block. This just stops them from doing anything. If you're building with a flying deck, it really can give you the edge. But you don't want to spend $850 on this card. A lot of players don't. So what option do you have available? What can you do to get the same similar effect? You can use Teferi's Moat. Now, Teferi's Moat is from Invasion. It's a little bit different in that you have to use a blue as well as the white and like 3 other. But this thing comes into play. You choose a color, and creatures of the chosen color cannot attack you if they don't have flying. Guys, I know it's kind of a change up, but at the same time, it's only $1. It's a very inexpensive card, and there's other reasons to buy it. If your player is lucky enough to have a Moat and you're looking for more synergy, offering in Teferi's Moat and adding that in is a pretty awesome thing, because then you get a little bit of duplication inside. It's a little more ground specific on which color type you're going to do, of course, but that really shouldn't stop a player who knows what they're doing. It's a great card, and for $1, who doesn't want that kind of card? Now, for our next card, though, we're taking a look. It's going to be Copy Artifact. Now, this card used to be $150, US, which was like $210 Canadian. Now, since then, this card has been falling and falling and falling, but it's still reserve list, and there's still, a lot of copies out there, but at the same time, in the future, if you're looking for a card and you just don't want to pay the kind of money it takes to get there, you're always looking for some kind of cost-efficient comparable that doesn't cost you a ton of money. And that's where a card like Mirror Maid will come in. Mirror Maid from Throne of Eldraine, it costs 1 more mana than Copy Artifact. It does cost the 2 blue plus 1 other, but when this thing comes into play, it copies either artifacts or enchantments, giving you some versatility, getting the job done, but it does cost a little bit more mana. But the best part is, this thing's not likely ever to go up in price. It's been reprinted, it's been around, you can find them inside Commander decks, so you look at this card for $1.84 and you say, this card is a good deal for what it can do for you. It is a budget-conscious card that gets the job done. Now, when we're looking at our next card, though, this is Keljoran Outpost. I know it doesn't seem like a pricey card, but at one point, this was up around $45 US. Nowadays, a near mint copy sits at around $9 US, but what does the card do, and why would players be interested in this card? Well, Keljoran Outpost comes into play. You got to sacrifice a plains. If you don't, you got to bury the outpost. But this thing could tap the outpost plus 1 white and 1 other and create a 1/1 white creature token, okay? Kind of an awesome thing. Now, this thing's been errated since then, but still, the idea that this card is a very efficient, low-cost token maker is awesome. Because the closest comparable we have, if you have to do stuff like this, is you're going to have to go with Castle Ardenvale. Now, it's a 50-cent card, super cost efficient, cheap, some beautiful artwork on the card from Throne of Eldraine. But you look at this card, it comes into play, and unless you control planes, it comes into play tapped. I look at this and say 4 plus tapping it. So it's 5 mana to get a 1/1 creature. That is not very cost efficient when you compare it against the Outpost. But at the same time, if you need and you have to have one of something that can do something similar, this is going to be the card for you, but more likely you're going with the duplication effect. You're going to have both in your deck. I know it's not that expensive, but still it's a card of note. Now, Library of Alexandria is ridiculously expensive. Players look at this thing and they know fear, because this card used to cost as much as $10,000. And this thing was restricted or banned in almost every format. It gets played at kitchen tables, Vintage Legacy, and that's about it. You can't play in Commander, it's still banned, although there are a lot of cards and a lot of mana ramp nowadays and card drawing ramp that really it's not as effective as it used to be. See, with this thing, you gotta tap it when you have exactly 7 cards. And it lets you draw an additional card. So people would tap this at the end of their turn to draw a card. On their turn, they lay a land, and then they tap it again to draw an additional card. So it's a lot of drawing ability, which can really cycle through your deck quickly, which a lot of players found favor with. Nowadays, of course, there's other ways of drawing, but this card would still be a highly sought after card if it was allowed to be played in Commander. Now, they haven't really given us tons of options. I like to show off the Biblioplex. Now, this one is a little bit different, okay? The Biblioplex is not the most expensive spicy card. It's 30 cents, guys. And I remember buying this card on pre-orders, like the pre-release, for $5. I thought this thing was going to go somewhere. It taps to add colorless mana to your mana pool, just like the Library of Alexandria. But you can also, with the Biblioplex, it says pay 2, so it's not free, you gotta tap 2. Look at the top card of your library. If it's an instant or sorcery card, you may reveal it and put it into your hand. If you don't, if you don't put that card into your hand, you may put it into your graveyard, okay? Which means, you can get rid of a card if you don't need it, but you can use this way a little bit more efficiently because you can have 0 cards in hand or 7 in hand. So this thing gives you a little bit of an option where the library does not, but at the same time, instants and sorceries only. To make this thing good, you've got to build around it, and nobody ever does, which means this thing is always going to be a sidebar card, but if you're looking for something that can kind of fill the void of draw ability, at least being able to look ahead of what's coming, or if you need a reason to put things into your graveyard, this is a better option than nothing at all. I gotta say, I've used it effectively in some Commander decks. It doesn't do a bad job. Now, for our next card, Fork. Guys, duplicating spells is amazing. Okay, Fork is an epic card that still gets played and utilized all the time today. Yes, it's reserve list, and yeah, it's been $150, and nowadays, a near mint copy is around $35 US. But if you're looking for that cheaper version, you just go ahead and look at the blue version, Twincast. Yeah, it's not in red, but it still copies target instant or sorcery spell, and you can choose the targets of that copy. This is a pretty awesome thing, okay? Now, it hasn't really been reprinted, I think maybe once or twice, so it hasn't been around as much of the reprint cycle, but it's also still a really cheap card. I have seen people use both in decks. They've used 4 of those and 4 of Fork, and it was especially in Time Walking decks and some Vintage Legacy fun stuff I've seen at Kitchen Table Magic. Now, for you guys out there, you might just want to use this in a blue deck, but at the same time, if you're looking for something that can copy Fork's abilities, this may be the card that you're looking for. All right, let's pop over here. This is Brain Geyser. Now, Brain Geyser, again, not an expensive card. But when you're looking for either duplication or you're looking for a cheaper option of this card, you're going to jump right over and take a look at Prosperity. Now, Prosperity is one of those cards. I did use it a few times in Visions. It says each player draws X cards. It is insane to think how much drawing you can get done with this thing. I don't think this one's been reprinted as far as I can recall. Somebody can comment in the comment section. But this one here is one of those cards that probably should be more expensive considering what it can do for you and your opponents. But at the same time, because it's everyone draws, it's not always going to be thought of as a similar card to what Brain Geyser can do, which is a target player drawing. So it's up to you guys to decide, but I think it's a pretty good option. Now, Gaia's Cradle, guys, I know, $879. This card shot up this month. Players were buying it on TCG Player, and you want to get yourself a copy, but you can't afford it. It's just too expensive. Well, you can always go with the Growing Rights. Let's not forget that this card's only $4 now. Okay? Yes, I know you got to do a few things to make this thing work, but at the same time, if you're going to add this into some synergy, if you're looking for a duplication card that can do the job, this is really not a bad option. As you guys can see, Wizards of the Coast has taken some efforts in the years past to make sure that there were versatile kind of copycat lookalike cards that would do something similar for players who couldn't afford high-priced reserve list cards. They have dabbled in this area before, and they're going to do it again. Now, the thing I like is that players who are looking for duplication can find it by getting an original reserve list card and finding the duplicate copy. But at the same time, if you're a player who's a purist and you want the original, you can go hunt down a reserve list card. And of course, if you're a player who can't afford the super expensive card, you now can use a duplicate kind of lookalike copy. And these aren't all the cards, by the way. I didn't mention Drop a Honey from Arabian Nights with the white version, which is Prophesary Nodes. You should look those up. They're really inexpensive cards. But there's also a couple of special ones I want to share with you guys that can be a lot of fun. Take a look at these. Now here on the screen I'm sharing with you Magus of the Moat. As you can see, it copies Moat from Legends. But there's a whole series of these Magus cards that you shouldn't underestimate. There's Magus of the Tabernacle, which means all those creatures have an upkeep cost. You've also got copycat cards like Magus of the Abyss. Now, a lot of these cards are less than $1, guys. They're not expensive cards. And of course, there's also Magus of the Candelabra for all you players out there who like to tap and untap some crazy land abilities. Guys, the options available to players can seem very limited when you're just looking at expensive reserve list cards. But when you go looking for options and you're a new player to the game, it doesn't have to cost you an arm and a leg. You can aspire to get those reserve list cards. You might save up for them. But if you're looking for an alternative right away that you don't have to wait for, these are alternatives that are going to cost you pennies on the dollar, and you can play with them right away. You could buy 6 of each. You're going to spend $6, and you can put it in 6 different decks. Guys, thanks again for hanging out with me today on the video. If you enjoyed today's content, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. Turn on that notification bell. I put out new content every single day, and I will see you guys tomorrow with another video. Well, here we are at the end of the video, and you're all here still? You're looking at all these patrons go by wondering what they're doing here? Well, if you really needed to know, and I hope you are asking sincerely, these are the supporters of the channel. These are the ones who make it happen, man. Every single day I put content out, it's because people like this are the ones supporting. Guys, thanks again for supporting the channel. Thanks for being here every day. I'll see you tomorrow. Don't worry, I'm here. I'm walking in. So here we are. We're in the Twilight Zone. Some of you guys have been here a while. There's like stuff to still clean up, but we're looking pretty good down here, guys. I mean, hope you guys enjoyed some backdrops, some change up, a little bit of something different. The new lighting, I think, came out pretty good. I'm sure you guys will let me know in the comment section. This is not the best microphone, but we're going to work on that for now. I'm using an older microphone, but I think it's going to do the job. I actually have to hold it right now because I don't have desks and stuff down here yet, but I'm working on stuff. I just hope you guys know that I appreciate you every day. And it's why I'm going through the effort of kind of offering a little bit more from the experience of hanging with the Moxman. Because you guys, you're worth it. You know it's true. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great one. Enjoy the day. Let me know what you think, and we'll talk soon.